Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's ASGBI webinar provided jointly with the Incision Academy. And this evening, we're going to talk about core and more, how the ASGBI can help you succeed in core training. My name's Jill Tierney. I'm the President-elect of the Association of Surgeons, and we're really aware that this year, more than ever, it's important to support our core trainees. We've had the pandemic, decrease in operative numbers, cancellation of exams, loss of the firm structure. So we really know that you guys need support. And at this stage, the outset of your surgical careers is the most exciting bit of what's going to be a really rewarding lifetime career. I can still remember starting mine, and that is a long time ago. We know that the Royal College of Surgeons put a webinar on last night on a very similar topic, and life is not a competition, but this one will be better. But we hope that it will actually augment what you learned last night and help all sources of information will be important in getting you to where you need to be to succeed. We've got three really interesting speakers this evening. I'd like to introduce our first speaker. I think digital technology and online learning has been key during the pandemic to helping people keep going with their surgical acquisition of knowledge and skills. And there have been some real innovative developments. We've had a slight invasion. We've left the European Union, but we have Michael with us this evening from the Incision Academy, and there'll be a prize at the end if anybody can pinpoint where Michael's accent is from, because he's a curious blend of our European colleagues. But with no further ado, I would like to introduce Michael Schmieler from Incision, who's going to teach you how to prepare for theatre from your couch. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Gillian. I'll share my screen if you don't mind. There we go. And check if you can see this okay.
Yeah, we can.
Super. So as said, my name is Michael. I'm the country lead for Incision in the UK and Ireland. And I'm very excited to be speaking with you this evening. I want to congratulate you on your first steps in what must be a very rewarding surgical career. And I'm very excited that we are able to kick it off with a bootcamp together with the Incision Academy, which we've developed exactly for this, to make surgical learning fun and accessible. To give you a bit of background on us, we are a Dutch company. We're based in Amsterdam. We count about 70 people who continuously work on creating courses on surgical education. Our mission is to make sharing surgical skills and knowledge as easy as possible, to bridge the gap between theory and knowledge and practice, and to really be able to make everything you need to know and need to learn as you go along as easy as possible, because it really can be difficult at some stages. We do that by offering you a web-based platform which is full of accredited courses which are made by medically trained content creators. We do it in a clear and accessible manner. All of our courses are created following the same methodology, and we have introduced blended education to allow you to see and hear the information, therefore retain much more as you go along. With that, we want to open up the variety in surgical education and show you much more than just a procedure, but also important things to know in terms of skills, in terms of things you should know before you step into theatre. So really, I'm looking forward to your thoughts on this. We've come now to a stage where we have over 500 courses on the platform. We have selected a couple for you. The courses you'll find are interlaced with CGI and anatomical overlays to make everything more clear. It's on demand from where you can view it wherever you like, from the couch or whatever. And you'll see that it includes pre and post-operative information to make it that bit more, to put it into context, let's say. The courses we've selected for you, we've done together with Ms. Tierney. We've selected 20 courses, and there'll be a selection of basic information, skills courses, and procedures. And hopefully this will give you a boost in confidence before you step into theatre. All of the courses are accredited by the Royal College of Surgeons of England, and now we're very proud, are endorsed by the ASGBI. So you'll know that the information being offered is the best quality there is out there. Without further ado, I'd like to announce the Online Bootcamp, which is created especially for you to consolidate your skills and to boost your knowledge. It will be shared using a landing page, and you'll be able to find it by typing in the URL you see above there, or by taking out your phone and scanning the QR code. I'll give you a couple of moments for that. This will lead to a landing page, which we'll look at in a moment now. And if you don't mind, I'll skip over. Let's have a look. And this is what the landing page will look like. So you'll see some basic information, some courses we've selected out for you, and some very kind words from Miss Tierney. If you click the big red button at the top here, it'll guide you to this page where you're asked to fill in a bit of information about yourself, your email address and password. If you then agree to the terms and conditions and sign up, you'll be asked to add in your institution of workplace, fill in whatever you want, and the role. Medical practitioner will be the best choice, and the country, UK, will be best. And that will then lead you to the Incision Academy following a verification email. As mentioned, you'll see 20 courses have full access and 480 are preview items. So hopefully that doesn't cause any confusion. The full access items would be procedures like the Liechtenstein hernia repair, whereby you see the course information, so the basic information, the consultants we've made it together with, any related courses and the guidelines. If we then click into it, you'll see the objectives, why are we performing this procedure and what are the approaches in this instance. You will also see a video, which we are very proud of because the quality is quite high. And you'll see that we highlight any important anatomical features. You'll see exactly step by step how to perform this procedure as you go along. As we delve deeper into the procedure, you'll see that as we go along, we highlight the anatomical features, we highlight things that are important to know, the tips, the tricks as you go along. And then I'm conscious of time, so I'd love to show you more, but really I'll give you the basics here. We'll see the hernia coming out in a few moments, and then obviously removing the lipoma that's attached here. Really, I'm looking forward to you viewing this by yourself when you have all the time you have. This is also supported with different steps. So here we go through every step that we have shown you in the video and the tips that are attached there. And if you come across, for example, a hazard that is highlighted and you're not quite sure what that meant or at what stage it was in the video, they're video timestamped, so to bring you straight back into the course and you can review it at that stage. We also highlight the anatomy. Of course, it's important to know in which region you'll be working, and you'll see these diagrams to support you there. What we're also very proud of is that we have created 3D models, and they look like this. Very cool to play around with. You can view them from any angle. You can select or deselect any structures you'd like to view. And if you hover above a certain structure here, you will see the names up in the orange box. So cool to practice there. Any pre and post-operative information points are highlighted. So here we look at the instruments and the positioning, post-operative, what are the complications you should expect with this procedure. And last but not least, the guidelines. Now, every course is concluded with a test, and I would challenge you to achieve 100% scores because it's really difficult. You're given 3 attempts, so good luck. They're multiple choice. Then they look like this. I'll give you a quick preview, and this will allow you to build your own little database of the courses you've achieved, and obviously also show off to others. The certificates will be emailed to you, so you'll be able to keep them afterwards as well. In a nutshell, that's a procedure course. I'd like to jump back maybe into a more basic information course because we also contain them. So again, the same methodology. Course information, what's related to this, what are the guidelines we based it on. Going into the course, you see the video. So here we would be looking at, for example, the protective equipment that you will be wearing, the setup of the OR, operating theater, excuse me. Also important to know is, how should I scrub in? What are the steps? Do I wear my mask first, put on my goggles, and then wash my hands with soap, or do I do it in a different sequence? It's all there. And then obviously also putting on your gloves by yourself. This looks very difficult. I've never tried it, but I don't think I'll be very successful. So once more, the steps that we've just seen in the video, and then the guidelines we based it on. And that, in essence, is the Incision Academy and the way it's built up. Very much looking forward to what you think of this, and we want to make this as easy as possible. So you could even install it on your phone. If you go to the Incision Academy using the browser on your phone, you can add it to your home screen following the steps you see here, and it appears on the screen as an app. So it makes it that bit more easy to find it. At Incision, we believe that feedback is a gift, so we will be sending out surveys. please feel free to share your thoughts, say what you think, if it matches your needs, if there's anything missing. And good luck. Thank you so much, and looking forward to the coming 2 weeks.
That's great. Thank you very much, Michael. I just want to kind of say something in the interest of transparency, because I know everybody out there is not naive. So Incision Academy, that's a fantastic resource. I wish they'd had something like that when I was a trainee. I think the quality of the graphics, the operative videos, and particularly the anatomical models are really good. Clearly, they are a business. So the Incision Academy are offering anybody who signs up to their website will get access to 20 courses. Part of the sort of an arrangement that we've come to on behalf of the Association of Surgeons in the interest of transparency is for our members, they can have an extra 10 courses in addition to that. And obviously for Incision, they would like people to subscribe to their company and then have all the courses that are possible. So I need to just state that to be clear, so you don't think I'm hoodwinking. I would never want to be perceived as in any way dishonest. I have to say though, the 20 that everybody gets for free even are brilliant. So please do that if you would like to do that. If you're going to join the ASGBI, and there are tons of other benefits to being in the ASGBI, then do the 20 and the 10. The 20 that make up the boot camp were picked by myself and other trainers to be the commonest procedures that one would need to be familiar with at core. So the basics of theatre, diathermy, how to scrub, some anatomy, inguinal hernias, lumps and bumps, your real sort of meat for core trainees are there, and then you can select the extra 10 from what takes your fancy and maybe what you see yourself doing after core. So that's what's on offer from Incision, and please do take up Michael's offer, scan his QR code and have a look with, what do they say, no obligation to purchase, absolutely no obligation to purchase. I think it's a good product and I'm really pleased with it. So now our next speaker this evening, we go on to, I was going to say the voice of bitter experience, that seems a shame. Look at fresh-faced, full of enthusiasm, having completed ST Year 1. We have an IST trainee, so I'm sure you all know improved surgical training is a pilot which is soon to finish, but from the east of England, and just starting ST2 year, we have Miss Geeta Lingham, who's going to tell us about what she wishes she'd known at the start of core. Over to you, Geeta. Oh, by the way, before I say that, anybody who wants to put a question in, please type it in the Q&A bar. So if you want to ask about Incision Academy, you want to ask about real experience of core training, you want to ask about the rules or anything at all to do with surgery, please type Q&A. You can put it in anonymously and I'll put it to the panel. Over to you, Geeta.
Thank you, Miss Tony. I'm just going to share my screen. Lovely. Okay. So hi everyone, I'm Geeta, and like Miss Tony said, I'm an ST2 in the east of England, so I've just completed my first year of core training. So let's start just with some general advice. So first of all, you're going to love it. It's really daunting, and I get that. We all felt like that when you start. Everybody's nervous when they start, but I promise you it is really enjoyable. You're doing what you want to do. Training is a lot of fun. It's very different from your F1, F2 years or F3 years if you've done that, but it's enjoyable. So that's the first thing to get out of the way. And then just some general advice. So obviously the whole aim is to try and get the most out of core training. That's what we're talking about. So a good way to do it is to sort of start your day by asking yourself, what am I getting out of today? What am I learning from today? What essentially was the point of today? So what I would advise is have a look at your curriculum or what you're expected to know, and that just gives you a good basis to start off with, and then kind of remind yourself of that regularly just to guide you on what you're going to get out of it. You won't be spoon-fed. Training is about what you make of it, so you do need to put the effort in. There are a lot of supportive trainers out there. There's a lot of opportunities, but you do have to put the effort in and think it through about what you're going to get out of it. So just bear that in mind. Responsibilities. So this was just a point to say that it sounds silly, but you're going to be the SHO. So people are going to come to you. And the first few times that happens, you're a bit like, me? Why are you coming to me? But just bear that in mind, that you are being escalated to, and it is something just to keep an eye on. Work hard and opportunities will arise. I tried to think about how to phrase that, but essentially it is that. If you work well within your team, you work hard for your team, you help people out where you can, they will want to help you and they will want to be supportive. People want to help, they want to train, give them a reason to help you, give them a reason to want to train you. And that can just be really simple things, you know, making sure you turn up on time, making sure you know the patients, making sure you've seen patients after you've operated on them. You know, just really simple things that you should be doing, but they do make a massive difference. So I cannot emphasize enough that if you put the effort in, people will then put the effort in with you. And that is, and it's a nice atmosphere. It doesn't feel like you're having to sort of bribe people or convince them that you're working hard. You are working hard and you get the reward out of it. So it is definitely something to bear in mind. So that's that. And then when I was trying to figure out what to say today, I was talking to a few of my peers and other trainees, and they gave more specific advice about things. So this is a little bit more housekeeping-esque, but essentially the key to core training is to be organized. So if you don't have an organized phone, I'm afraid you're going to have to find one, because there's a lot to keep organized and a lot to keep on top of. So the e-logbook app, if you don't know your e-logbook, if you just type it into Google, surgical e-logbook, it is a system that you put all of your operative experience onto. There is an app. It's £9 a year. And I know we're quite tight. We're coming out of F1, F2. I know the feeling. You're thinking, I don't pay £9 a year for an app. Michael's just showing you all these amazing things and you can get 20 of them for free. Why would you pay for an app? But I promise you, this app is really useful. When you come out of theatre, you can just do it immediately on your phone, you know, lap appendix assisted or whatever, and it's there and it's done, okay? So I promise that's useful. Not just operating. So obviously we all want to operate. That's why we chose this job. It's the most fun part. Everybody finds it the most fun part. It's the bit we all want to do. But core training is so much more than that. So the learning opportunities on the wards, managing patients, post-op complications, when you're on call, going to A&E, seeing people at the front door, all of that is part of your learning for core training. And unfortunately, it's as simple as, if it's not on your portfolio, you haven't done it. So everything needs to be written down and tracked, whether it's in a CBD or a KETS or a DOPS or something, it has to be written down. So just get into the habit of doing it. The more you do, the quicker you get at doing it. So it is just a case of getting it done, I'm afraid. And by not just operating, I mean, don't forget other things: teaching, audits, presentations, leadership roles, not only for like your ARCP requirements, but also for your ST3 applications and everything. So it's good to keep on top of all of that. But at the same time, obviously operating is the bit we will enjoy. So make sure you really try and get the most out of it from that perspective. My number one tip for operating would be ask. Don't ask, don't get. We're all, whether it's the Britishness or just general politeness, we hate asking for things. I promise you, bosses don't mind if you ask, okay? The worst they'll say is no, and it's not the end of the world. Even in, you know, as you're beginning, just really simple things, you know, look, I've seen an umbilical port been put in a few times now. Do you mind if I do it? Just hone in on something you want to learn from that operation and something you think you can do, and ask, can I do that? And even if you get a no, it's normally followed up with a, not this time, but definitely next time. And then you'll see them next time. And you do have to be that, dare I say, that bugger who's like, remember last time you said I could do it. And honestly, people don't mind. You will get used to asking, but ask. That's all I can emphasize, because you will get the most out of it from that perspective. Exams, I know it's miserable. Everyone hates them. No one likes them. Everybody knows how tough they are, but you do just have to get them done. And I don't have any other nicer way than to get them done. lots of your colleagues, seniors are so supportive for taking study leave, and they know you have to get your exams, and everybody's really helpful in terms of use this website, use that website. So just chat to people about their exams. What did you use? And people are really helpful. I know they harp on about it in your induction as well, but it is important. And it's something like, it's the reason that the vast majority, if you don't progress from core, it's usually because of an exam. So everybody finds them tough, but just unfortunately sit indoors and read, and you'll be fine. So that's the top tips. And my final slide is make friends, and I've harped on again, ask questions as well. Core training, just being part of a team is a lot of fun. A lot of you will have done F1, F2 jobs where you're quite sort of isolated and alone. Part of the reason I did surgery is because I just hate being alone, and you know, in the future I fully plan to have my 20-person ward round with a full entourage, and I'm not ashamed to say that. There is always people around you, whether you're in the doctor's office or you're going out for a drink after work, there's always people around. They're a good bunch of people. You often find you're quite like-minded. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but you often find you're quite like-minded. So you will make friends, you will have a good time, you'll be in it together. You know, you stayed late for an operation, it didn't finish till 3 a.m. and then you were back in at 8 a.m. and you can be miserable and tired together, but it's an enjoyable experience. So enjoy that side of things, and just chat to people about stuff. A lot of training is, people above us love to talk about when I was training and, oh, I did this, and just roll with it. Just roll with it. Let them talk about their experiences. You will learn stuff from speaking to people. So yeah, you can tell I'm a bit of a chatterbox, but essentially you just have to talk to people. And I think my time is running out, so I will stop there, but I did see some questions.
So there was one, so that's brilliant, Geeta, thank you very much. I think that everybody can see that Geeta's energy and enthusiasm is palpable, and if you put your all into core surgical training, this is how you will feel too, so you couldn't have a better advert for it, Geeta. The question which was answered is, and I'm going to read it out because it'll be helpful for everybody, somebody's tried to find the eLogbook app, couldn't decide which one it is because there are a few. Is it the one with the green background and the scalpel called Mobile eLogbook?
Correct, it's green background scalpel, because there are a few, like, I don't know, sort of copycat ones. It's green background scalpel, exactly that.
That would be great. And then I think I'm correct in saying that that then transfers directly onto ISCP, so that when you have your ARCP, your assessment annually, that data has been transferred over.
What I would say is when you make your eLogbook, use your GMC number as your username, because then it will transfer to your ISCP. If you don't, you then have to go through the faff of redoing it all and for it to transfer over. So your username should be your GMC number, then it will work.
That's an incredible tip. That's really important because half my trainees don't know that. So that's really good. Thank you very much. Please do type any Q&A in. There is no question too stupid, I promise you. And this is your captive audience who really will know the answers. So thank you for that, Geeta. Now, having heard that we make good friends during core training, here the next speaker is a good friend I made during core training. And I would like to introduce to you John Lund, who is the chair of the JCST, which is the body which controls training within surgery nationally. I'll stop speaking and we're over to Mr. Lund. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Yeah, so good friends, met on the first morning of our core training rotation. Here we are all these years later on the same webinar. Fantastic. So thanks very much. I use the eLogbook app still. I think it's really, really good. Just at the end of the list, just put all your cases in and it's still there. So I'd recommend. So I'm going to share my screen now, and what I'm going to do is give almost the same talk as Geeta in actual fact. Because I'm going to try out using a Prezi just for slight interest sake. So if anyone has motion sickness, look away now or take some Stemetil, one of the two. So how to maximize opportunities in core training and prepare for ST3 selection. And so first thing to say, welcome, you're all brand new. Welcome to core training. It really is, as Geeta said, really good. And what you're doing in core training, of course, is evolving from being that F2 to being a registrar. And it's, you've got 2 years to evolve from one to the other. And it's a big step up, and it's kind of like training to be the registrar. And you should start to feel like you're the registrar by the end. And it's a bit of an uphill journey. It should be like this, where you've got lots of friends with you, lots of colleagues to help you with this, lots of people sharing the load and carrying you along. And what it shouldn't feel like is this. It shouldn't feel alone and dangerous and difficult, in danger of falling off. If you feel like that, go and talk to some of those people in the other picture, and they'll carry the load for you and help you a bit. So we're all in this together. Sorry, that's my dog having a loud drink of water. You should be like the thing on the left, not the thing on the right. So the first thing you need to know, and this is something I never knew, and I wish I had, is what you need to know what you need to do to get to where you want to go. So you need to know what you need to achieve to be a registrar, what you need to do to get to the end of core training. And it's all here. If you go to www.iscp.ac.uk, a website with which you're going to become very familiar, you'll find this, the core surgical training curriculum. There's a new one just out now in August the 4th, and this is the one you'll be following for the next 2 years. If you go to about page 34 of it, I think it tells you what you need to have achieved by the end of core surgical training. And here's a list. I'm not going to go through them. You can go and read it for yourself later. But it covers a number of things in a number of fields across the breadth of core surgical training. And then, as Geeta said, it's not all about the operating. And so what we have in surgery in all new curricula are these capabilities in practice. What they are the 5 areas that you'll need to do as a consultant surgeon. So that's managing an outpatient, managing the take, doing ward rounds and caring for inpatients, managing the operating list, which is more than just operating, and managing multidisciplinary working. Obviously, by the end of core, you're not going to be the finished product, but we do say the level you need to get to be able to finish core. And just to help you there, you've got the levels there that you need to get to, and how we've defined those levels, those level 2 supervision. Have a quick look at those descriptors, and it's not too difficult, but it does mean that it does require you to start to move towards that first steps, becoming an independent practitioner as a consultant. So just to echo what Geeta said, my biggest tip for anybody in core training or any kind of training is get involved. The more you put in, the more you'll get out. And, don't sort of stand there passively. Learning by osmosis isn't an option. You've really got to get involved and be active in your learning and training, and then look for opportunities. I think one of the things about core training is that you can sometimes, especially if firms aren't what they used to be, is feel a little bit adrift. So make sure that you know people and get involved with them, and then look for opportunities where you can do the operating or part of the operating. So when you go along to something, don't be the second or third assistant at a big operation. That's going to be not much good to you on a day-to-day basis. Go to day case, do the cases, do the lumps and bumps to start with, do the hernias, put the ports in, do a bit of the lap appendix. You don't need to be able to do lap appendix and other things by the time you finish core training, depending on what theme you're on. So do those basic level cases and go to places where they happen. And then Geeta said this, your mantra should be, can I do that? Every time you go somewhere, say, can I do that? And people will let you do a surprising amount as long as you remind them that you're there. And then again, it's obviously these are all golden things that are passed down through the ages. Be a good team member, support your colleagues, because if you support them, they'll support you, exactly as Geeta said. So just get involved and be active. It's as Jill said to start with, we've had a lot of, the pandemic has had a big impact on surgical training, and one of the campaigns that we did to try and address some of this deficit was the No Training Today, No Surgeons Tomorrow campaign. And there's been a few things to come out of that. So one of the things there was, hang on, I knew this would go wrong at some point. Worked really well in rehearsal. Was this, the the JCST and the training organisations and schools of surgery got together a document which you can find on the JCST website, which is, it's about COVID recovery, but has some really good suggestions about how to get the most out of training on a day-to-day basis. And you find lots of things there. That's just the very top of the document, showing the impact of COVID starting in March 2020, from which we've not quite recovered. So you do need to be active to get out there and do things. The other thing that we include at the bottom of that list is this surgical education checklist. And this is for in theatre. And this is just to really remind people that you're there. And if you don't have it already in your theatre suite, then I do suggest using it. Use it at the WHO briefing at the start of the list. And what it does is just lets everybody know that you're there to be trained, and you can agree what you're going to do in each particular case going through the list, and then also make sure you get some feedback, a debrief at the end. And of course, that really reinforces the things that you learn. That's all part of active learning. So that's on the surgical, on that COVID recovery document, or it's also on the JCST's Twitter feed. And I'd really encourage you to use that and introduce it to a theatre near you so that people know you're there and train you. The other thing is again, you know, all this training business is all about people. It's all about relationships with people. And if you have a good relationship with your clinical supervisors and your educational supervisors, then things will go better. They will look after you, but you have to help them to help you. You've got to turn up and do things. So here's some top tips. Again, it's pretty much what Geeta said, really. Be proactive and be prepared for learning opportunities. So if you've got a list tomorrow, have a look and see what's on the list. And read a little bit about it. Go to Incision Academy and see, you know, here's the hernia we're doing tomorrow. I'll go and have a look and see the anatomy and see the steps, etc., etc. So just look ahead. If you're going to clinic, think, what kind of a clinic is it going to be? What am I going to see in there? And read a little about it. If you arrive and you know, you're not talking the absolute basics with the person who's there to train you, then they'll respond much better to that. If you look like you've done a bit of work, you've got to meet them halfway. Be on time for clinical sessions and meetings. It really is irksome when people are late. It just feels like, you know, that they just don't have enough respect for you to be on time. So just be on time. If you are going to be late, then just message and say, I'm really sorry, I'm tied up here. I'll be a bit late. Hope that's okay. I'm really sorry. The other thing is, you know, reflection's kind of got a bit of a bad rap as a word, but, you know, be reflective about your learning needs. As part of new curriculum, there's a new assessment tool, the multiple consultant report. And then one aspect of that is you will have to use that same tool to assess your own progress against all the capabilities in practice and against the generic professional capabilities. So it's really important that you sit down and think about, you know, objectively about how you're doing. And what that does, it allows you to generate some ideas about what you need to do to move forward most efficiently in the next 3 to 6 months of training. And equally, listen to constructive feedback. You know, ask for constructive feedback always. How do they do that? What can I do better next time? But also listen to that. You know, it's all nearly always meant in a spirit that's meant to help you move forward. Sometimes a little bit difficult to hear if you haven't been doing as well as you thought or you hoped, but listen to that constructive feedback, either in person from the people that you're working with and particularly from the multiple consultant report, and take your own self-assessment and the MCR report and drive your own learning through the learning agreement. The new learning agreement setup has the two things documented side by side. And when you sit with your AS, you're going to look at those things, and there'll be a box at the end that says what you need to do in the next 3 to 6 months. And crucially, another box that says, how are you going to do that? So what you need and how you're going to do that are together in the new learning agreement. And it's an agreement between you and your AES and your trainers. So you need to take an active part in that agreement and drive your own learning forward through the learning agreement. And it's a document there that if you aren't getting what you need, you can get out the learning agreement and say, look, we agreed that I would do this in the next 3 to 6 months. It's a really good and powerful tool for advancing your own learning. And the other thing, just, you know, be organized. I'm terrible. I mean, thank goodness that we didn't have computers and probably even paper when Jill and I started training, but keep your portfolio up to date, because you don't want to be the night before your ARCP just trying to cram everything in. You'll forget stuff. You won't reflect on yourself as well as you're doing. And it's just really hard to do and really stressful. And the TPD might be understandably a little bit grumpy with you if you do that. So that's just some sort of some top tips for what to do. But what you're aiming for, of course, is the end of core training. And so the next few slides are going to be about how to prepare for selection at ST3. And this process will start as soon as you think, sooner than you think. So you'll start in the autumn of next year of your CT2 year. So Geeta, I would hope, is starting to get things ready for her ST3 selection process.
She doesn't need
So,
it for IST.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to go. Yeah, so if you're not as lucky as Geeta, and we are abolishing it because it really is unfair that so Geeta, you have to benchmark. But if you're a normal low-flying person like the rest of us, then you will have to be selected. So where to find all the information you need? It's all there. People just don't read it, but it's all there, everything you need. So here's where you go. You go to specialtytraining.hee.nhs.uk, and this takes you to this this web page here, which has everything you need to know about selection. There's a recruitment timeline at the bottom there. Particularly important is the applicant guidance, and also all applications are made. I think you've probably used this in foundation through Oriel, which is the online portal for application and ranking, etc. So it's all there. Have a look at it much earlier than you need to, so you make sure that you get prepared and get all your ducks in a row for training, for selection. So the next thing to do is to find the person specification for the specialty that you want to be in, and that's on a link from that page, and you can see all medical specialties and general practice here. So here's a bit that includes general surgery. I'm a general surgeon, so the next few slides will relate to that. But have a look at the specialty, which is your destination specialty of choice, and have a look at this person's specification. Now, go to this website this evening, download the person specification, and see what you need to turn into as you evolve over the next couple of years. And then the thing you need to do over the next couple of years is to make yourself look as much like the person in the person specification as possible. I googled famous twins. I didn't recognize any of them. So this is Lindsay Lohan when she wasn't really bad and arrested and things like that. So make yourself look exactly like the person in the person spec. What you're going to need to have, you must have to be eligible for selection. It's something quite easy, and you will be having these already. So you need to be medically qualified. You need to have passed the MRCS by the time the last sitting before the start of ST3 would start. So if you don't have MRCS, you can't start ST3. During COVID, we've had a derogation to relax that, but hopefully COVID's going away, and we will be able to get rid of that derogation. So you will have to have MRCS before you can progress to ST3, and that counts for Geeta too. You have to be fully registered with the GMC, and you have to have evidence of completing foundation competencies before that. So, but you will have done that already to get into core training, and then you'll have to demonstrate you've completed core training at the time of application and also by the time of appointment. So an ARCP 6, which is the one that says that you've finished the program. So that's an ARCP 1 in ST in CT1, and then an ARCP 6. The CT2 to say you finished the program. Or if you're not in core training, in the core training program, there's something you do to demonstrate equivalence, which is the certificate of readiness to enter higher surgical training. So if you're not currently a core trainee and you're on this looking how to get into ST3 without going through core, then that's the certificate you need to be able to complete. So what do you need to do to progress to there? Well, you guys, if you're on a core training program, will have the essential and the desirable criteria, completed the relevant competencies. This is general surgery, but the other ones say the same. And then the desirable criteria. In general surgery, it's less than 5 years in general surgery at CT or ST level to go to that. If you're over 5 years, then it's difficult to get into ST3. Other specialties have different times there. So if you're going into TNO, for instance, do have a look at this, your destination specialty. And then for general surgery, again, all of the specialties describe something similar about emergency experience and other experience that are desirable criteria. In the interview and selection process, the essential criteria will get you in. If you don't have the essential criteria, you're not eligible for selection. And the desirable criteria are the ones that are going to score you extra marks in the process. So over the next couple of years, you can enhance your portfolio as you go through core training. But lots of people get themselves really quite obsessed and in a bit of a jam with trying to enhance their portfolio. And I think the first thing to say is that it's a good to do, but keep it in perspective. The maximum proportion of marks that can be utilised in the portfolio part of the selection process is 20%. So the cutoff for selection is generally about low 70s%. So if you're really good clinically, and that's who we're really looking for, you can just about turn up without a portfolio. I wouldn't suggest it, but you can score 80% of the marks and be well in the range, right in the middle of the range for people who get selected. So don't sweat the portfolio too much, but they're good skills to develop, and they're good transferable skills for later through registrar training and also for consultant life. And you can see the essential ones are there. If you can't demonstrate that in your portfolio, then you won't get an interview. But the desirable ones are the ones to look at. So these are the things where you can start to score extra points. They're discriminatory. They help us select the people that we think are going to do best in higher surgical training. So there's things there like degrees you've already got, prizes, awards, distinctions, publications, presentations. You might want to come to next year's ASGBI conference, for instance, and present an abstract there. Other conferences and associations are available. Participate in research and then show that you've really got into audit. You haven't just done an audit, but you've designed one. And that can be something as small as a really small service improvement project as well. We're just looking for understanding of the things to do and how to do it. And it all has to be evidence. So you need to put that in your portfolio. If it's not written down, then it hasn't happened, as Geeta says. Teaching's another thing, getting involved in teaching. Teaching really helps you learn for exams. If you can't explain something simply to a group of medical students or foundation doctors, you probably don't understand it yourself. And teaching really helps you think through those things and crystallize your thoughts. So I would really encourage you to teach. 1, it's really enjoyable. 2, somebody did it for you, so give back. And 3, it really helps you revise and get your thoughts in order for exams, both in core and later. And then commitment to specialty, you can see the general surgical things there. There are other things for each specialty. So have a look at those and then try to develop those from now on. The application and interview is pretty straightforward. It's all managed online through the Oriel portfolio. If you go to that first page, so you can have a click on what Oriel looks like and how to navigate that and what you're going to need. Sometimes things are a little bit complicated. So again, give yourself plenty of time. Don't try and upload all your things the night before, because what happens is lots of people try to do that and the system crashes from time to time. Give yourself a chance, have a lot of time, have it prepared. The interviews are likely, it went to online during COVID for obvious reasons, but because it's been pretty well received and it's a lot cheaper, that they're likely to remain online and not face to face. So make sure that you have a good internet connection, make sure that you have a good webcam and microphone so you can make the best of the online communication. You'll have a self-assessment of your application form. So you look at your application form and you score yourself. Be honest, and then if you're asked to interview, your shortlist will be verified. So make sure you're there, because the marks will be downgraded if you haven't been, particularly if you've overrated yourself. But also they'll pick up some areas where you might have underrated yourself. The online interviews at the moment and probably going forward are going to be about 30 minutes each, and they're mainly going to be clinical scenarios, because your portfolio is mainly taken care of in the application phase. And, we're just looking for somebody sensible, somebody who's got the potential to train, someone who's ready to be a registrar, someone who's ready to be ST3, somebody who's safe. So that's the main thing to get across. Just be safe, logical and sensible in the interview. When you're ranking posts, the one thing I would say just now is do not rank any region where you don't want to work. So if you don't want to come to the wonder that is the East Midlands, don't put it, because you will inevitably be ranked, you'll be able to be allocated the East Midlands. So don't do that. No one gets sent anywhere by natural selection. You choose to go. If you don't want to go somewhere, don't choose it. Right, so that's all the prep for ST3. So that's pretty much covering, how to do well in core and how to prep for ST3. But just to go over it again, enjoy yourself. It's really good fun. I had a fantastic time as an SHO as it was then. It's really good. You're learning new things just about every day. Look at where you need to be in 2 years' time. So what do you need to do? Have a look at the curriculum and syllabus and get involved. The more you put in, the more you get out. have a good relationship with your trainers. They're really, if you're fun to be with, they'll be fun also, and really put more into training you. We all like to develop people. We all like to see that light bulb moment. We all like to bring people through training and see them successful at the end. Lots of our trainees and our consultant colleagues, so the people are worth investing in, and it's really satisfying to see people do well. But you've got to be there, and engaged to let people help you. I say a lot, can I do that? Can I do that? Can I do that? You should say that at least 14 times a day. If you're having problems, and some people do, tell somebody about it early. Don't let it fester. Problems can be headed off at the pass. We can help you with just about anything. So share it with your clinical supervisor, your AES, your TPD, your head of school. Someone will help you with that, and there are lots of resources available in each deanery to help you with all kinds of problems. So don't suffer in silence. Don't hide away problems. Be open with them, because they're the kind of things that will slow down your training or lead to you leaving training. So do tell somebody early, and then everything can be fixed. Look at the person specification. Make yourself look exactly like that person that is described. And if I didn't say it enough already, enjoy yourself. It's really good fun in core training. So that's it. That's me over. I just need to find the stop sharing button. There we go. It's the top. And back to you, Jill, in the studio.
That's great. That's hilarious. Thank you, Mr. Lund. So we've had lots of questions. I think that was full of really good information. One question I've been asked a couple of times is, if I've come in halfway through this, will it be available on catch up? And if I want to tell my friends about this who didn't come to this, how can they get access? So this will be available on the ASGBI website. It's open access. You don't need to be a member to get access to this. Though obviously there are so many other good benefits of being a member, she said. And so you can look it up on the ASGBI website. It usually takes our secretariat a little bit of time. I'd maybe give it a week or so, she said, hopefully, till it's uploaded, but it will be available to watch catch up. And please do share it with your friends, because actually the facts in this, especially that last presentation, are really key and crucial. Many of your trainers, if they're not actively involved in the mechanics and the structure of the deanery and things like that, may not know the actual answers to some of those things, and may occasionally, though motivated by good, give you misinformation. So those are the facts. Other things to have to hand: the Gold Guide, latest edition, which you will find online, is the manual for all training, all postgraduate medical training in the UK. And it has the rules. So if you have a query or a particular question or some particular special set of personal circumstances, the answer to your training query will be in the Gold Guide. Everything is just done with the rules. And equally, the curriculum, which you can get on the opening screen of ISCP, has all the answers to what you're supposed to have done and not done. And the JCST website is also a very valuable resource. And there's a set of things called JCST quality indicators. So if you're doing a post and you think, how come I'm going to clinic all day, every day of a week? This doesn't seem like surgical training. The answer is because it's not. And you can download the JCST quality indicators and take them to your trainer and say, so I went to a webinar, quote our names, and they showed me that this was what was supposed to happen in my working week. Can you make that happen, please? So it's good to be, as Geeta says, enthusiastic and interact, polite with your feedback, but show the rules, because the rules are non-negotiable in UK surgical training, and that's because they're safe. So we have a ton of questions which we sort of answered, but I'll put out. So one to Geeta, you've already answered, but for the delegates, does everything in the e-logbook need to be validated, and how do you do that?
So it doesn't need to be validated. I think for when you applied, you might have had to have a signature on the end of it, and that's fine, but it doesn't need to be validated on the logbook itself. You want it validated when you put the consultant name in under who it's under. It automatically, if you click validate, it'll get sent to them, and then they can click to validate if you do want it validated.
Cool. And then I would say, as a trainer for other things on the ISCP, exactly that. If you put it down correctly in the site, it sends us an email that we have to click validate. And then we're very used to being politely nagged by trainees to say, you don't appear to have validated these things I have sent you. Do you think you could? And what's even better is if you sit down with the consultant and show them how they open the website and show them how to get access, they're more likely to do it. So it's all good people skills, all of this. Mr. Lund, with regards to the new curriculum, we were told at induction that WBAs are no longer required, but they still get mentioned as mandatory on ISCP. What is the case?
So there has been a big change with the new curriculum, and the role of WBAs has been relegated a lot. So you won't have to do that mandatory number per year, which for most people is 40. If you worked in London, it used to be 80. And so you won't have to do that. What you will have to engage with is the multiple consultant reports, which I think gives, and self-assessment, which gives you much better feedback on how you're doing against that journey from the novice of where you are now to the expert of being a consultant. But WBAs, if you want some feedback on a specific thing that you've just done, then that's really good as well. So they're a great way to formalize and structure and record feedback you get. You should always ask feedback at the end of something, but if you want to provide a kind of a structure that to help people think things through, then WBAs are useful for that. Have a look at the core curriculum or any other curriculum you follow. There may be some mandatory WBAs that you have to show at the end, just to show that you can do those crucial things in the specialty that you're following as well.
And also,
the other way,
with what Geeta said,
useful is to return if you're on a non-standard outcome, that there might be people ask you to do those just to demonstrate that you've made up that development need.
If you want to do a diagnostic laparoscopy, if you can tell trainer X that you've got 4 WBAs saying that you're satisfactory and safe from other trainers, that will encourage them to give you that opportunity. So they're nice to use as evidence. We have a query from Peter Ishak, who missed half the presentation. So how can you access the recording? Our ASGBI Secretariat have just WhatsApped me now to say it will be posted on YouTube tomorrow, and an email link sent to everybody who's registered for the webinar. So it's an open access one, so share it with your colleagues, the link. Anonymous attendee. Now this is interesting, maybe Geeta as a real life scenario. So if somebody's doing an F3 year, a bit of time out of training, but still wants to carry on with the surgical career, make use of ISCP, should they pay the sub, load up arduously that whole year, or just use eLogbook? What would your advice be?
So eLogbook definitely, I would say, is worth it, even if you don't get the app. The actual website is free. ISCP, I agree, a little bit tricky. You don't have to use ISCP to show evidence. You could just collect evidence in another format, write something down, get a consultant to provide some written feedback. I don't think you necessarily need to do the whole formal portfolio if you're not formally in training. I think there's ways you could get around that would still work in your physical, portfolio for interview that could easily get you the same points.
I would agree with that. And I think we're all conscious, there's been a lot of noise on Twitter recently about the absolute cost of surgical training and all the things that you need to accumulate. So, we're all real people with families. And so I think it's really important that it's quite an expensive thing as a one-off that might not be necessary. For people in IST, I'll put this to Mr. Lund. I've typed what I think is the right answer, but I'd just like to double check. For the ones in IST, do they have to benchmark? And is there an interview, or is it associated with their ARCP process?
No benchmarking.
That's what I've written, good. But I also said that you need to have a standard or progressive outcome at your ARCP in order to progress.
Yeah, you have to have completed the core curriculum in the same way as anybody else. So you won't leave core and you get an ARCP 3 if you haven't met the requirements at the end of the core curriculum. But you won't have to go to benchmarking.
And then another one for you, Mr. Lund, on process. Audits and other stuff done pre-core training, will that count as evidence for ST3?
Well, I suppose it depends how far it was ago, but yeah, well, I think decisions are made by the panel and assessments by the TPD. So, but it's about accumulation.
Not ARCP, for ST3 interviews.
Oh, yeah.
Pre-core.
Yeah, so it's about can you do something? Have you acquired those skills? So you just put evidence down. You don't have to do it at a particular time, unless it's 6 years ago and you haven't done anything since then. You just demonstrate you've done something currently. But you can't forget that you did that. You can't forget those skills that you learned. So they all count.
So that's kind of what I'd said. Geeta, what about somebody had to do an F3 year, because we know there weren't many NTNs at national selection this year and there were lots and lots of applicants. It was an extraordinary year for people and lots of people are taking different career options. Anything you would advise for portfolios to get over that bottleneck that's going to happen for a little bit longer? How to strengthen their position?
It's tricky. I think you do just have to look over all the criteria and just try to maximize it. The phrase "work smart, not hard" comes to mind. So don't slog away trying to get one paper when you could easily get your 3 loop audits in the same time. So just be savvy with how you get your points. That would be my only advice, really. It is tough, and yeah, like you say, lots of amazing people were let down. So just try and be smart with how you work. That would be my advice.
And I think mine, I don't know if Mr. Lund will comment, is previously you would have said it would be nigh on impossible to achieve required competence to be a consultant in a non-training program role. But I think the potential for doing that going forward is a little bit more possible. What are your thoughts, Mr. Lund?
Yeah, well, I just firstly, I say to Gita, do what it said for ST3, have a look at the person spec and what the requirements are, make yourself look like that's described in desirable characteristics. Also out there will be the mark schemes. So, work smart, exactly. So you can only score so many points in the research domain if you've got a Nobel Prize or whatever. So, don't get the Nobel Prize, but do some audits and do some teaching. So you score most in most domains.
My question was, though, do you think you could get to CCT having accumulated evidence in non-training posts all the way along?
Well, you can't get to CCT, so you can if you're not in training, then your entry on specialist register would be by the CSER route, the certificate of equivalence of specialist registration, and it's quite a difficult process, but you can gather evidence that you can keep an ISCP and follow the same processes to get onto the specialist register that way. The other thing you can do is keep gathering evidence and then enter and then get into training at some point. And of course, with the multiple consultant report and an outcomes-based curriculum, so you're ready to be a day one consultant when you're ready, is that you can have all that experience counted through the MCR. We're just looking for somebody who's ready to be a consultant. So you don't have to have done 5 years training or 7 years training, etc. All the experience you've had so far will count towards the endpoint.
So just to clarify that a bit further, because I understand what you're saying, is you might end up having done 6 years worth of post-core training jobs and be so much further down the line, and then go in at ST3, but at your first ARCP, you might be judged to be ST8 capability, potentially.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. So all you need, so that could be a little bit quick. So what the GMC say you need to have is an ARCP1 and then an ARCP6, and that's the minimum number of ARCPs you need to finish training.
Okay, so a few more questions. I'm conscious that we're getting towards the end of time. In fact, we've got 2 minutes. So one for Gita and Mr. Lund, I think. Any advice, Gita first, on how to split your time between theatre clinics and wards if they're not timetabled? Because it is absolutely, and this is really important, difficult making that step from FY to want to be on the ward, supporting your junior colleagues in your foundation, do the stuff that you're really good at, between going to the scary environment.
Yeah, it is tricky, especially when you start out. You'll experiment with the balance and you'll get it wrong inevitably. So it is a little bit of trial and error. You do kind of have to remember that you've moved on from that stage. My first couple of weeks in core training, I did so many foundation jobs, just because that just felt natural. You have moved on from that stage. There are people there to do that job. Yes, be there to support them, phone numbers, call me if you need help, whatever. But ultimately you have moved on to that next step. So you do kind of have to put that boundary there. And don't feel bad about it. It is part of your job. It is how the system works. So just be a little bit more confident and push towards that. But as you do it more, it does become a bit more natural and it feels okay.
I'm just going to whip through these because there's quite a lot and I would like to get everybody
just before you go on, so it has to be spread out because you have to be competent in all of those capabilities in practice that I showed on that slide. And then the other thing is, like you said, Jill, is the JCST quality indicator would describe the ideal job.
So while you mention that, Mr. Lund, we have from Joseph Smith, and this is good and an honest query. So are the quality indicators a guide or a requirement? Because he's certainly not getting them in his first rotation.
Well, we can't require things, but they're a very powerful guide. So if you're not getting the things that we described, then go and see your clinical supervisor, your AES, your TPD, and Director of Medical Education, your own trust as well, because they're there as a guidance.
I would also suggest go as a group, perhaps, rather than an individual. If you're all on the same wrong kind of working pattern and wrong kind of duties, there's more strength to being a group. And I think there are quality processes within a deanery. So if that non-JCST quality indicator kind of working pattern is affecting the quality of your training, then absolutely you report it back through those structures, and your deanery can have a quality visit to the site, which no trust likes. So there are mechanisms to try and make it better, but obviously give it a little bit. We're only 2 weeks into August, aren't we? So maybe this is a glitch time. So yes, feedback robustly, but maybe have some, time to bed in as well. It's a balance, isn't it?
Yeah, but you are a trainee, so you should be trained.
You have rights. Trainees have incredible rights. One for Mr. Lund, and it's not a silly question at all. It's a really good question. If IST is going to end, what will happen to current IST trainees? So if it ends next year and everybody's in the first bit, what will happen to them?
Well, in the mastermind way of start at or finish, so you will continue to progress in run through. It's just that there won't be anybody else who comes in after IST will be uncoupled, and so have to do core training, then a selection process ST3, and then higher surgical training.
Okay, I think at that point I'm going to draw it to a close. We're a minute over, which is terribly not punctual. I hope that everybody has found that useful. I would like to thank our 3 expert speakers. I hope you can see that the surgical enthusiasm continues from one at Gita stage all the way up to one grinning with the guitars in the background of Mr. Lund's stage. I think we're really grateful to industry and our partners, Incision and Michael, for the support and the great digital technology and fantastic quality of stuff that there is there online for us to access to augment what we're getting in real life. I think we have, thank you, pleasure, Joseph. And this will be available. It's on YouTube. Vicky will send out the link. There are tons of other ASGBI webinars about surgical topics. Do look on the website. Good luck to everybody with core training, and definitely, most importantly, have fun. Right, it's ended. Go to the pub. Bye, bye, bye.
Bye-bye.